Hi, you're listening to UNS Talks, a podcast by the international architecture and design firm UNStudio. Hosted today by me, Lucie Pressl. In this episode, we're diving into the heart of the office here at UNStudio, the Modelspace. But before turning to our guests, let me briefly share that I myself have a background in psychology and neuroscience, applying my field of expertise to the world of architecture to help design in a more human-centric manner. So whenever I throw in something related to psychology or neuroscience, now you know why. For today's episode, we're sitting down with our Modelspace colleagues Jack and Stijn to talk the practice and the value of model making here at UNStudio. Besides their present work, we will head into the Modelspace archive and also peer into the future of what model making will look like 5 to 10 years from now. Jack and Stijn, thank you so much for joining our podcast today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
And to start, would you mind briefly sharing a bit about yourselves? What is your background? How long have you been working at UNStudio? Where are you from?
You want to hit it off?
Sure. I'm Jack. I've been working here since January this year. I'm originally from Ireland. So I guess it wasn't until college really that I kind of really got into model making a bit more. I was always into like carpentry, woodworking, metalwork throughout school, whatever. But it was really college that kind of made it a bit more intense, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I quickly got into 3D printing, laser cutting.
Cool.
Yeah, just working more with my hands and stuff, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it was always something I guess I was training to do, but it was only until college stopped, looked for a job, landed in this field. So yeah, I mean, it's worked out well. And yeah, loving it so far.
Great. What about you, Stijn? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I have a background in interior architecture. I studied in Utrecht. I always loved the model making part during this education. And after that study, I tried to get into architectural studios and started out first job as a model maker at a different Dutch but smaller firm. Mm-hmm. And after that, I started my own model making company in 2010 when the construction crisis, or how it's called, came upon us. Then I started for myself, did that for about 10 years. And in that period, I also freelanced a lot here at Studio. Was super excited in the beginning, of course, about these crazy shapes that were happening here. Mm-hmm. Very challenging. And since the last 3 years, I've been working here on the contract as a model maker and also responsible for the archive.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here, guys. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, so are we.
Yeah.
And to start off, what is model making all about? I'm thinking especially about our listeners and people watching who might not be familiar with model making. Could you give them an idea of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think in general, model making is supporting the architectural teams just as renders or 3D visualizations, panels, books. Model making has always been a part of this whole process, and it really helps understanding for somebody who can like read a drawing, making a physical model makes them understand the spatial value a lot quicker. Mm-hmm. And even for the teams, not even for the client, but also for the teams. So I think in short, that's it's supporting the design.
Nice. It's actually already kind of going into the question that I had in mind about. It's not really a given, I think, that an architecture company has a model space, right? We don't see it everywhere. Mm-hmm. So why is it so important for you in Studio to have a dedicated model making space, and what is the value that it brings to the company?
Well, there are like the bigger firms. They do have their own model space, and I think it's a privilege to have it. And yeah, for every design studio having a space where you can be creative and play around with materials is something that's, yeah, if you can get your hands on with your design is very important for us to have, and it's been there since the beginning, because even before 3D renderings or drawings on the computer, there was always like make a model.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's something that
Yeah.
studios very much needs and will keep needing in the future.
And what would you say is mostly the case, that you start experimenting a lot with the materials and model making, or is it mostly like you have a really clear vision, you just clearly know what you produce and you just deliver the output? What is it like a usual day at the model space?
I think the nice parts is where we have the freedom to experiment with materials. It's not always the case that we have that time or even budget for it. And as Jack said, it depends a bit on the stage. If they're in the like a preliminary phase, we can suggest different approaches. But if there's like a competition that needs to be done like next week, this is the design, and yeah, sometimes you go for your knowledge that you already know. And if there's time for it, we can play around a bit more. Like recently, we will start pouring with concrete and making silicone molds, but this is a very time-consuming process. But we had the opportunity to do it. So personally, I really like this beginning phase where you can try out and fail and try again. And yeah, like failure is the best teacher. So in that case, I think that's nice.
Yeah, like some projects allow for that experimentation and that, I guess, the time and budget. Other projects, it just isn't possible. It's more of a case of there's an outcome or kind of a result that needs to happen, a piece that needs to be given, and that's what we do, that's what we produce. Whereas sometimes, again, depending on the stage, you could produce something maybe to a certain extent, and then a team would come in and something would change, a design change, or maybe just something in the actual model, material, color, texture, whatever. So sometimes you do have models where it's very much A to B, whereas other times then it's more A to S to or to B to Z.
And sometimes you just have to close the door and
Yeah.
say, okay, designers, stay out.
Please,
Yeah.
stay out.
If you want a model,
Let us
we have
work.
to finish it now.
Yeah.
So stay away.
I see. And another topic I would like to dive into is sustainability, because I also know that's something you're very keen about and that's very important to you. What is the Modelspace's approach to sustainability, and why is it so important to take a sustainable approach in model making here at UNStudio?
I think why it's important is quite self-explanatory. Explanatory.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no pun intended, but I did. Yeah, no, environment. That's the most important reason, of course, why.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do we try to do? Like less waste, less plastic.
Environmentally, if it's meant to be reflected in the buildings, I guess it makes sense to be reflected in the models. And I mean, it was always something I thought of throughout college, and whenever I was making stuff at home myself, it's so easy to make stuff, models, whatever, that is which are just disastrously bad environmentally, like resins, glues, plastics, whatever processes you're using. So like it is a challenge, but it doesn't have to be a bad one. I think a lot of people, when they hear sustainability or the environment, it's like you have to disregard style or finesse or certain technologies, but it's more of a case, especially with what we do, it's more of a case that we still use the technologies, but they don't have to be like so severely CO2 intensive, carbon intensive, and we don't have to sacrifice on style either. It's more of a case of we're still getting the job done, we're still making the models to the standard we want, just friendlier. I guess, with a better strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also I think the studio towards the outside really wants to send the message that we're trying at least as much as we can to make sustainable buildings and be aware of human health. But that's also from the inside out, like within the studio, we are like, what type of paper do we use for the printers? What do we do with our own waste? So that we should also carry out internally how we handle this, and not only within our own buildings, but also what we do here. So I think that's a message for everybody. Like in the studio, do we like when we have lunches for clients? Do we do the vegan or a vegetarian? Just to be a bit aware of what we choose. Do we get our products locally? It goes much further than just the space where we work. But indeed, as Jack said, we try to reduce plastics, work more with cardboard, with wood, when we can get the same finesse and detailing. But
so it's not a trade-off to actually use more sustainable materials but still deliver the same high quality, or would you say it is hard sometimes,
it's a mix.
It's finding a balance. I mean, it can be a challenge, but I mean, I think you can see it one of two ways. It's either going to be a pain, or it's going to be something that you can actually enhance your work. And I suppose it's like, look at me, we do really environmental work, really sustainable work, and these are our practices in how we do environmentally friendly work within the company, in our designs, in our models. It's practicing what we preach. And I mean, I think especially with our team, we do see it as an opportunity, because a lot of stuff we're doing inside in the model space, it's baseline, first time experimenting, whether it's with soap or wax or bioplastics or hemp or whatever wild, crazy solutions we can kind of think up of. Whereas I do think there's a lot of attitude out there that it's a hindrance, whereas with us, it's more of a case of, no, this is what we do. We do it well. So kind of bring on your next challenge and we'll succeed at it, I guess, really. So yeah, that's the attitude, I think. Just kind of, it's an opportunity. Doesn't have to be a bad one.
Nice.
So yeah.
I like that perspective.
Yeah, also the teams, they with the architectural students, they also come from an architectural background. They're used to making foam cut models and using all these different techniques. So it's also what you're used to, you tend to grab again, and you know how this works, and this is but if we have enough to showcase, like if you try it this way, and it might not be 100% sustainable, but maybe it's like 70% and the other 30% is not, but then at least we have something to like and this is using metal and glass and woods and papers, cardboards, and indeed bioplastics, get them locally. All this is
good point.
Yeah,
nice.
It doesn't have to be a full 100%, friendly, but I mean,
it's a process.
It's a process, and
even integrating it slowly into projects, it's a lot better than not doing anything.
Exactly.
The teams are changing. They kind of like it now.
Yeah.
Nice. So in a way, you're also influencing and inspiring the teams, then, no?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But before a revolution, people tend to kick against change.
There's a lot of attitude change.
So but the client wants a white. Like for instance, the German projects, they really want this only white models. So but we don't always have these these alternatives. So can we make something a bit more in a lighter tone to go towards the white? That's nice. It keeps the job interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do some past experience sharing. What are some projects that come to your mind that you especially enjoyed working on, or some models that you really enjoyed creating? Is there anything that immediately crosses your mind?
Well, you've been here the shortest, so maybe your memory is more fresh.
Short-term memory.
Can it also be nightmares or?
course, you can go.
Something worth mentioning.
Something worth mentioning. Well, we recently finished a project which, since last Saturday, was exhibited in the Venice Biennale. So that was for the Qatar Children's Museum, which was a nice project to work on. It's been in studio a while. But yeah, it was a challenge. But I mean, I all the team pitched in and it turned out pretty well. So it was solid beach, timber base, some etching, some hand carving.
It was crazy work, man. It was crazy.
Don't downplay it, Jack.
There was this. They had like an example of the blocks of wood as like a plaything for kids. That was like the inspiration for this.
Yeah.
And the idea was to chop out of solid wood these cubical chunks that like fitted into each other. And he was chopping and grinding and milling everything away like for 2-3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
That was it was intense. It was very intense. It was like, I'm glad I didn't have to do that one.
So you stayed completely away from that
project?
project?
Well, of course we helped out. I did the base, but that was like veneering and it was a bit of laser cutting. But we help each other out.
Nice.
And I think that's kind of. I think the project before this one, you also said like, I don't know what was that? Because this is like the worst. The AI. Like, you really didn't
tell us about it.
Yeah, it was a difficult. The teams kept changing all the time, right?
Yeah. There's a few experiments I think that we did that which didn't really go to plan, and had to rectify those, and it was kind of, again, A to B to X to Y, and it was like, trying to get everything back on track again. But I mean, it turned out good in the end. But yeah, it's that process. Sometimes it just doesn't go according to plan, and it's which happens a lot with model making, I think.
So you have to be very stress resistant in your job, you would say?
Doesn't everybody?
More or less.
I guess it's a thing of having a contingency plan, I guess, or knowing what to do in a situation when you know you mightn't have enough time or budget or material. It's just it's constant problem solving, which I think a lot of architecture is anyway.
It is, yeah.
That's nice. Yeah.
And Stijn, your most memorable projects or models that you created?
Yeah, it's been so many, but there's one certain, like we had to make like 8 or 9 models for a project in Qatar, and these were like big models, and we had the nice thing was that we got really good support from the teams. When you're in collaboration with somebody who's preparing drawings for you, and if they also think in like a model making way and not in a like I have to construct this in real life way, if they help out and that this communication goes well, and it was like laser cutting and assembly and everything came together quite neatly, and it was a very long process, but the models came out really nice. If you work on like one thing for like 6 months, it's very nice to like focus on that. So I recall those were very nice. But it also had like I also remembered because we had like a really big model made for it, and then it went, because making models is one, but then it needs to travel, and that's like a different level of stress. Like, okay, did I pack it well? Did everything go okay? And then there's this delivery guy waiting to pick it up to transport, and you're like finishing the last things, and then you pack it, and then one of the models they arrived like in 2 pieces.
That's such a shame. It's out of your hand. You cannot do anything about it. But that's then
you get pictures from the client like
what happened here.
And these are models for like 10-20K a piece, you know, and they break.
That's heavy.
Then you have to get a model maker over there to fix it for you. But this is like, okay, then you make the decision for next time. Okay, even if the transport's here, I need to pack it well.
Yeah.
That's the most important, because if it breaks, then it's it's a bit of a double mixed feelings with that. It's like very great projects, but when that happens, like you put so much effort into it.
Yeah, for sure. Does it happen a lot? Or
No.
Good.
No, we make really good boxes, so it never
Yeah,
happens
no,
anymore.
we have
Good,
we
good.
have our own system also
Yeah.
where we're making transport boxes. Just make sure Patrick always says like make sure you can throw it off a flight of stairs and it's still in one piece because you don't know how people will handle it. Of course, usually I would like to bring it myself because then I know how to handle
Certainly.
it. But yeah, sometimes they pick the things up and they just cram it into the van and then it's like, oh, okay.
You're already anticipating.
Yeah.
It's not a good start.
So that's also part of the job. It's not only the model making, but also
Yeah.
the logistics and
Delivery
Dealing
and
with clients.
exhibition. Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
I see.
So it's a shop within a shop. I
Yeah.
think. It's a little business we're running.
Yeah, it really seems so. So
Yeah.
many tasks on your shoulders.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But
That's true.
for that stress level, you look very fresh today.
Well,
try.
keeping up appearances.
Yeah.
So good. But let's move on to the Modelspace archive. So UNStudio has a dedicated archive that's not in our office itself, but located at a different location here in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
What is the UNStudio Modelspace archive and what can be seen there?
Well, I'm responsible at least for making it more representable because I think 4 years ago we started on cleaning up the space. So it's at KNSM Island in Amsterdam. It's a very big space. We have models that go back since the beginning of the studio, which is like 1988. So there's like 1,000 models in all different stages of deterioration, but still also pieces of art. So we started out having a couple of hours per week to extract these models, unpack, photograph, repair. So we set up shop there, but it took quite a long time to clean up the space. And we also have a exhibition area there where we want to showcase certain projects. So there are different locations there that we use. And it's important. It's the legacy of the studio. It's Ben and Caroline's work. And we need to it's still the backbone of where it all started, and we can show very well what the process is from handcraft model making to 3D drawing into 3D printing and this evolution of model making. And they're also the other bigger firms, and I think you know which ones I'm talking about. They also have their archives. Some of these studios, when you walk into the studio, you first go through this time zone of project that they made, and I think also here all over the studio you can see projects for clients. Also, when they come, they can see what we are doing, what we have done in the past. So it's an ongoing process. I've been working now on it for 3-4 years.
Okay. Yeah.
A while ago, I visited Renzo Piano's archive, and they had 5 people working on it for the last 20 years, archiving, and they kind of laughed at me that I was doing it back then on my own, trying to set goals for myself. But it's just a very ongoing process, and every day, because we're responsible for bringing in the new models that sometimes go to clients, sometimes they go to the archive. It's also a lot of maintenance and work. And we have Jack and the interns; they help out. But it's the space there's no daylight. You know, you don't want to be there for more than 4 hours, and then you want to do something else. Yeah. So, but it's an important part, and we want to showcase it to the public. Use it as a educational value, and we are in connection with Architours, who also have tours around the city, and they also visit that. So now with the opening of the booking building, and there are several projects in Amsterdam, and they do a big tour, and then they finish or start at the archive as a cherry on the pie.
Nice.
Well, we're very, very proud, and very important to keep that alive, because it's been buried literally for too long. So we're keeping it alive.
So now we've talked about the present work that's happening in the Modelspace a bit and the archive, but I would also really like, as a last topic, to peer into the future of model making here at UNStudio. And besides handcrafted concepts, paper, and sketch models, you just touched upon it. We're using 3D modeling. How much is 3D modeling being used right now, and do you see it as kind of the future of model making, even the future of building in general?
I think there's an extreme opinion out there that it's entirely the future. Anything 3D, anything virtual. I think it's something I've even come across myself. It's like, why build anything by hand when you can just do it in 10 minutes on the computer, whatever. And I think it's an easy trap to fall into as a designer, no matter what your field. Whereas I know myself in my own experience, once you do something like, not even just by hand, having something physical in front of you, something that you're working on or working through, designing, evolving, elevating, you're never going to get the same benefits looking at a computer screen compared to having it in front of you, because you can instantly see where something's wrong, where something isn't working. Whereas I think when you're looking at a screen, there's nearly a facade over it. You're just fooling yourself. You just can't see it as well. So I think the opinion of it's something that's going to be regulated to the past, that'll age very quickly, because I think the best designers out there will be, as we see with our studio, we have the Modelspace, we're implementing it, and we're using it as a tool. And I do think it's actually the best one we have. Because, I mean, we even see it daily. Designers come down to the Modelspace and they see, I don't know, tower or whatever that they've been working on for months, and they're like, wow. Or else they're like, okay, need to fix that. So yeah, I mean, there is a place for 3D, whatever, technology, virtual reality, whatever, but it's certainly not the answer to replace anything physical model making or whatever.
Yeah, it's not the full answer.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's about finding the happy medium. Because I mean, even a lot of the new technology we have in the Modelspace now, with FDM printers or SLA, whatever, it's the latest technology, but at the same time, it's not entirely replacing like handcrafting, woodworking, whatever. We're using it more to complement, as opposed to complement and enhance, as opposed to replace. All right. Because I mean, we even see it in the archive, loads of techniques, strategies, skills. It would be a shame to lose out on them, only to replace it with a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Because it's
not the same.
No, it's not at all.
We also have to embrace this technology, because it's going so fast.
Yeah.
The 3D printing technology, they're changing. There are quicker printers, newer printers, and like some of the prints we did in the past, they are not timeless, because people can see, oh, this was this type of printer. It looks like that one. So it's we have to also evolve. And also getting back to the sustainability part, resin printers are super hazardous. Powder printers are okay because you can like recycle a bit of the powder. The FDM printer works with plastic, does have a lot of like biodegradable plastics or wood filaments to have a certain amount of sustainability on that. But for example, during the Corona period, we couldn't make any models because they were touched by everybody. They couldn't travel. We were locked down as everybody. So we were thinking, okay, how can we like change? How can we still make models that we can communicate? So we think maybe we go with the augmented reality. See if that's like we make a 3D model, we QR code it, we make some we use a software program. So we got that started up, or how can we make like flat foldable models and send them in an envelope and like get them by the client, get them to the client, and they can like unfold it by themselves, and that we don't have to touch it. And yeah, it's something that we you can kick against it, this ever-changing technology, but you like every 4 years there's like this really big additive manufacturing, as they call it, fair in Germany.
Okay.
And they showcase all the new technologies. And we, like last year, we went there and we had a look and like, okay, what's new? What can we use? Not everything is for art. It's more for like industrial business also. But as long as we use it, as Jack said, as a tool, we also always need somebody to take it out of the printer. You need to assemble, and it's also would be nice. How can we combine these technologies, different 3D printing techniques? How can we combine it with our paper models? How can we convince teams to do that? So it's I think the future is that model making will never end, hopefully, because it's my job. It's our job. And I think that all the bigger project managers, they really enjoy this space that we have. They always showcase it as the heart of the studio. It's the most inspirational area. You've been there. It's
came out as a different person.
See, that's exactly what we so it's the physical models have been here like for a very, very long time, and I think they will always be part of the architectural design process. It's connected. So I don't think we will be pushed out by 3D printers, but somebody's got to turn that machine on
and off
and off. And if it's broken, you still have to make your model. So then you have to get back to your own crafting qualities and do it different.
100%. Yeah. I think we can call it a day. But guys, thank you so much for coming on the episode, sharing all these insights about model making here at UNStudio. I think it was so interesting to talk about the ins and outs of the model space, the model archive, and even get a fresh perspective on what we can expect to see in the near future when it comes to model making.
We will definitely be part of the future.
100%.
Looking forward to listening back and hoping that we didn't bore out everybody with our skills and techniques and talking about the things we love, because we love this job.
I love this. And thank you guys for tuning in today. We hope that you've learned something, that you are left inspired to be creative, do some model making yourself, and come visit our Modelspace to see and to also make use of the amazing work that's been done every single day. Also, for our next episode, we're inviting the UNS urban team to talk about regeneration and urban activation of our cities. So please follow, subscribe, and we will see you next time on UNS Talks. Ciao.